my essay tonight is called Quitting Gluttony. I love food, especially snacking. I can usually be found in one of the three stages of snacking: thinking about eating one, and rubbing my tummy after eating one. So in late 2003, while living in New York City, I should have known I'd be in trouble on my first day of work at Google. In the snack kitchen, I spotted the shiny blue wrappers of Rice Krispie treats. They reminded me of childhood, and being reunited with them in bulk was beyond magical. In my first few weeks, I learned just how many I could eat in a day. 3 packages, 2 per package, which equals 6 Rice Krispie treats. And I ate just that much every day for 6 weeks. That's 180 Rice Krispie treats. Much of what you hear about the search giant culture is true. Google has crazy, ridiculous food. I transferred to headquarters in Mountain View in 2005, home to 15 plus cafes, covering almost any cuisine imaginable. Here's a sample menu: boneless fried chicken with cheddar bacon, frizzled onions, ranch, and brioche, seared day-boat scallops, prosciutto wrapped asparagus, and lobster truffle mac and cheese. And for dessert, caramel pecan crisp, pineapple mango risotto pudding, and assorted chocolate-covered strawberries. When the free food wasn't innovative enough, we would go out and actually pay for our own lunches. We'd create crazy concoctions like donut burgers. For those of you who have never had one, picture an In-N-Out burger with Krispy Kreme glazed donuts as hamburger buns. The gluttony at Google extends beyond food. It overflows into other perks like subsidized massages. There are chair massages and table massages, Thai, Swedish, or shiatsu. There are high-tech Japanese toilets that come with heated seats, so your backside never has to go cold. Holiday bonuses of $1,000 in cash, and shuttle services so you don't have to drive to work. The perks are so infamous that I ended up on the front page of the New York Times one year when the Times ran a feature article and accompanying photo about the Google shuttle. Despite all the perks, from a career standpoint, I was pretty miserable. By 2006, I transitioned from client services manager to localization specialist, essentially an electronic paper pusher for translation. I felt like another cog in a big machine, trapped by unchallenging tasks. To have a file translated, our process went like this. Step 1, receive translation request. Step 2, download files and save to local drive. Step 3, reorganize files and save again to local drive. 4, upload files and send to translation vendor. 5, review and download translated files. And 6, repeat steps 2 through 5 to review translation. The process remained this way for 3+ years until Google finally invested in an automated solution. In addition to the process, there was also a growing amount of politics, micromanagement, and meetings about meetings, and a decreasing amount of transparency and sense of impact. In 2007, we conducted a time tracking study where everyone logged all their tasks and hours for 4 weeks straight. The results of the study, called What Are You Doing?, showed that we spent 35.2% of our time processing translations, 25% of our time in meetings, and 22.2% of our time doing administrative work, like emailing and documenting processes. We made suggestions to reduce meetings and automate workflow, and 1 year later, the only quality of work-life improvement made was that the chefs in our building now had snacks show up at our cubicles. I was spending the majority of my days at Google not learning. I wasn't pushing myself to do more or to be more. Instead, I took afternoons off to paddle boat, to play ping pong, and then eat a second lunch. To compensate for the lack of professional challenge, I decided to take on personal challenges, like dating a clinically codependent guy whose career path vacillated daily, from staying at his soon-to-be outsourced job, to freelancing, to quitting and traveling the world together, to transferring to the London office, also together. But I'd be an idiot to leave Google, I thought. My dad once remarked, "Jen, after having lunch with you today at those 3 different cafes, I know that you have finally made it." Last year alone, Google received over 1 million applications for employment. People would kill to be in my position. And if I wasn't happy there, what kind of company would I be happy at? For a year or so, I agonized over this, and then in late 2007, the trifecta of life trauma happened. 1, I was denied my request for a leave of absence. I had hoped to do some soul searching. 2, I had a 5-day course of food poisoning, which started on the same day my codependent boyfriend broke up with me to move to London by himself. And then 3, I decided to have it out with my parents over 21.3 years of poor parenting. I felt like my life was falling apart and that everyone and everything was quitting on me. Gradually, over weekly Google massages and Google-made steel-cut oats, I nourished myself back to health and normal weight again. Enough so to realize that the real problem in my life was that I had been quitting myself all along. I started to reassess the balance between material perks and values more meaningful to me, like intellectual challenge, innovation, independence, and pie-in-the-sky dreams like making a difference and helping others. In June 2008, I sent my letter of resignation to my supervisor, and then I emailed HR. Quote, "My manager and I have agreed that the 22nd will be my last day. Please schedule my exit interview for then. Thanks." I received the following response. "Hi Jennifer, I will discuss this with your manager and we will come to a final conclusion as to when your last day will be." I replied, "Can we discuss this? It's a little strange that I wouldn't have a say as to when my last day at Google is." In July, I finally shed my golden handcuffs and left Google. I had no job lined up, no plans to take one. It was both liberating and terrifying because whatever I did then, from then on, was 100% my responsibility. I've been lucky in countless ways since leaving Google. In its first year, LitUp Writers was invited to participate in Lit Crawl. A few days after Lit Crawl, at Atlas Cafe, I told a friend about the experience. A guy nearby overheard me and asked to see my essay. He was assembling a book of funny essays aimed at getting students interested in writing. A few months after, I received this email. "Your essay? Our agent loves it. We are including it as a sample essay in our proposal." I truly believe that when you choose to live your life in fuller alignment with your own values, opportunities unfold for you in ways that you cannot ever imagine. You just have to take that leap and trust yourself, that you'll be able to navigate the good and the bad. And just as my inner accountant fretted over my financial stability, a friend offered me a freelance consulting gig. So in July of 2009, I started consulting at a 150-person mobile startup that was about 3 years old. I reported into a VP and director whom I respected for a change. They were fairly open-minded and progressive in management. We worked out a deal where I worked 20 hours a week and only came into the office once or twice. I could get things done, didn't have to hold countless meetings or get layers of approval. Being at this place showed me how institutionalized my thinking became at Google. The company did really well, month over month, year over year. It experienced tremendous growth, so much so that in November of 2009, the company, AdMob, announced that they were being acquired for $750 million by Google. So, in July of 2010, I quit Google again.